Bet on yourself. I know that it can be really scary. I love to see people who've replaced maybe 20 to 40% of their income. You get what I consider mind space to think about how can I create other income. And I find that my students, they're the most successful when they really bet on themselves.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller.
And on today's show, we're so pleased to have Sarah Weaver with us. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, Sarah, again, thank you for being on the Road Less Traveled Show. To start with, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background, what line of work you initially were in, and how long you were in that line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. The reality, Bill, is that my previous resume is laughable. I taught English in South Korea. I was a journalist. I worked at Sports Illustrated. I was a social media marketing analyst. And so if it had anything to do with talking to people, I did it.
So it's a wide variety for sure. And then what did you transition into?
So I first became a real estate agent. And I joke that I was a real estate agent for about 5 minutes. I realized it was not for me living in one place and putting buyers in my car and showing properties and then having them complain about the paint color was not the job for me. And so I looked around and I realized that all of the wealthy people owned real estate. They didn't necessarily have to sell real estate. And so that is when I started looking into becoming a real estate investor.
And what path did that lead you down? What's genre of real estate did you focus on?
Yeah, so I bought a single family and then started focusing on small multifamilies. I now have a portfolio of 19 units. They are in 4 different states: Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and Iowa. So, destination hotspots of America, I like to tease. And 9 of those 19 units are furnished rentals. And instead of focusing on the short-term rentals, so 2-night or 3-night stays, I focused on what I like to call the medium-term rental. So my tenants in the furnished rentals, they stay at least 30 days, but most of them stay an average of 87 nights.
Okay. And is it any specific market like traveling nurses, or is there any specific group for that midterm?
Exactly. They are travel medical professionals. My furnished rentals are in Omaha, Nebraska and Des Moines, Iowa. As a world traveler, I did not dream of owning Airbnbs in Nebraska, but it turns out that is where I make most of my money.
Nice. So you mentioned those are hot spots in the Midwest, except during the winter. I guess they're pretty cold spots, right?
Exactly.
Good deal. So Sarah, maybe from your, I don't know, Sports Illustrated or your English teaching days, is there a funny story you can share? Something happened to you along the way?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I've lots of stories. I think one of my favorite stories from teaching English was the student was, let's just say, doing something inappropriate. And I, with the best ability, kept a straight face. And I was like, do not do that. And another boy in the classroom looked at me and he was like, Sarah, teacher, you know? And I'm like, yes, that hand gesture is universal worldwide. And so there were just so many laughs as a school teacher, especially living in a different country, kind of living in their culture. And oh man, they were just really funny.
That is funny. My daughter's a middle school art teacher, and she's had some. It's a small private school, but even though the classroom sizes are small, she still sees some interesting things that she's actually had to. One go to the principal out, or anyway. So yeah, let's keep going. But yeah,
I once had a boy who I will not say inappropriate things in Miss Sarah's class, and I made him write those on the board about 50 times. And the hard thing is that you also find what they're doing so funny, right? And so you're having to be professional, but you're like, damn, that was really good.
Yeah, it's like little kids. Sometimes they do something and you're trying not to laugh, but because that'll only encourage it. But yeah, it's sometimes hard to hold it in. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think I'm a great mentor, but I am not a good teacher. I do not have any classroom management skills. So, like, God bless every teacher out there around the world.
yeah.
Well, Terry, you may have touched on it a little bit, but what was kind of the deciding factor that, I mean, you had multiple careers, so you transitioned, but the last one into real estate, what was kind of the deciding factor to make you want to go down the real estate path?
Yeah, I think I was really determined to have a job inside of real estate. And so my first remote position was working for a real estate recruiting company. And so what we did is we placed administrative staff with real estate agents. So the company loved that I had the journalism background, so I'm very good at asking questions, and had the real estate background so I could understand, how to place a transaction coordinator on a top tier real estate team. And so I actually had that job for 5 years. And what I loved about the job, Bill, is that it allowed me to live anywhere. So
Mm.
I worked remotely from all over in the world. I got an apartment in Brazil. I had an apartment in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And I worked like a normal job. I had a 9 to 5 working for this company. And while it had nothing to do with real estate investing, it later became one of my greatest strengths that I have all of these connections in the real estate industry. So when I realized that I wanted to be an out of state investor or a long distance investor, I networked with real estate agents to find all of my out of state deals. And so my ability to communicate with real estate agents became kind of one of my superpowers. But one of the things that job was missing is that I wasn't learning anything about real estate investing. And so I actually heard a woman on a podcast, so similar to this. I heard someone really liked her story, reached out to her directly, and actually
Hmm.
started working for her. And
Nice.
so, for anyone out there kind of looking to transition into real estate, I think that's a really great tool is to do what I call earn while you learn. And so I actually got a job in real estate investing for about 18 months. And as you can kind of guess, that's when I became 100% determined to build my real estate portfolio and basically allow myself to quit that job by doing what she had already done.
Hmm. Very nice. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. It
Great.
definitely
Yeah.
it's amazing how you're in the world, you're learning in the world, but at some point in time, you're also making some money to sustain, and it's a great path. Yeah,
Exactly. And Richard, I wanted to be really clear. I had to take a pay cut to take that job.
sure,
And
sure,
so I wasn't making great money.
right,
However, I was able to live anywhere in the world. So where
right.
did I live while I had that job? I lived in Bali, Indonesia, and New Zealand. And
Wow.
so my lifestyle was fantastic. And every single day I was on Zoom calls, either coordinating a webinar or even leading a webinar or getting to interview amazing investors like yourselves. And it was all paying me to do that. And I
Hmm.
think that that was really important.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Sarah, you talked about again how you kind of work with somebody else, and then you sort of started moving in direction on your own to do your own things. Were there some obstacles you had to overcome as you were trying to make that shift?
Yeah, I think it was a mindset. It was realizing that I was going to be able to figure it out. That paycheck, while it wasn't a big paycheck, it can feel like the golden handcuffs. And like I
Hmm.
just mentioned, the job let me live anywhere I wanted. Like my life was really cool. And so it was really hard to give up something that was good in in not knowing that it was going to work out. And so I'll be the first to admit that I had a safety net before I kind of took the leap and quit that job. And that was my first medium term rental. I
Hmm.
bought a fourplex that my PITI, my principal interest tax and insurance, is $2,000. I think it's $2,017.
Hmm.
And my rental income on that property is 6,500.
That's a
Yeah,
nice spread. Very
it was a
nice.
nice spread. And so I realized I was like, well, wait a minute. I almost just replaced my entire monthly salary with that one building. Okay, now I can justify
Hmm.
quitting and essentially I call it betting on myself. And I'm so glad that I did.
Very nice. Very nice. Very cool.
Absolutely. But and then it kind of sounds like into that kind of our next question on that was so that was kind of your first victory was when you I guess it became real to you. You could replace your income and scale that to a larger extent to be able to leave your W-2 job.
Yeah, I think the first victory actually probably came with property number one. I house hacked a single family and I bought in an A-class neighborhood. Actually, I happened to actually drive by it yesterday, which was such a treat. And I had a realtor in the car because of course all my friends are in real estate or investors. And I bought that house for 217 and there's a new build where they tore, the 1942 Cape Cod down and
Hmm.
they built a new build. It's listed for 1.3 million.
Yeah.
And so I have so many different exit strategies with that house. In addition to right now, I have $120,000 of equity in that house and cash flow is $900. And my exit strategy is eventually I'm going to tear it down, build a new build, and turn around and sell it, and basically become a real estate developer. And I that first house was such a win in so many ways that even if it hadn't been a home run, I still think I realized that real estate investing was my golden ticket.
Hmm.
And so I thank my lucky stars that it did go so well, but I was so determined to buy something that had multiple exit strategies.
Hmm. So it was an older house. You said, I think 1940s, right? Roughly.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. But it's in a fantastic location. And again, you can see what's happening in the neighborhood. It's gentrifying and the fact that people are, we joke and call them McMansions, but anyway, people are tearing
Yeah.
down the small Cape Cod and building a McMansion. And therefore you've got, a $300,000 house that now becomes a $1.3 million house because it's a Mac Daddy house in a fantastic area. So that's awesome. Very nice.
Exactly. And then what I did is 2 years later, I house hacked another house, not in such a nice neighborhood, but I was focused on cash flow. And so that property cash flows, I think, $900 a month. And so when I had those two houses, I mean, I was bringing in conservatively $1,200 a month once I
Hmm.
set aside money for CapEx, maintenance and repairs, vacancy, and even property management, even though I self manage. And I think that's when I realized, yeah, this is going to work. And
Hmm.
so fast forward to 2021, and I purchased the fourplex that I gave you the numbers on. Well,
Hmm.
then you guys, I bought the fourplex next door. The numbers on that are even better. I'm bringing in $7,500 in rental income when the PITI is only $2,000.
Hmm.
And then in that same month, I bought two other duplexes. So in 93 days, I bought 12 units.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's just you.
And it's just me. I'm single. I was in my early 30s. I'm still in my early 30s. And I wasn't making, you guys, I wasn't making six figures in my W-2 job,
Yeah.
but I was very strategic about how I saved my money and using different financing strategies. And I just went like full board real estate investing and I knocked it out of the park that summer.
Hmm. That's incredible. That's great news. Yeah, great story. So, Sarah, in your real estate world, again, you mentioned that you travel quite a bit. Is there a funny story you can share? Something recent?
Yeah, I'm really lucky that what has happened is the entrepreneurial spirit has really bit me hard. And I have started multiple businesses. So I own my rental portfolio, which I told you. So I have 19 units. And then people started asking me, okay, it's really cool that you travel, but how on earth are you buying these properties long distance from afar and furnishing them? And so then two companies were born. I started Aria Design Services, where we furnish Airbnbs and furnish rentals for real estate investors nationwide. So now I'm able to help investors like me buy properties in places that they don't live. Then I also started a coaching company, my mentorship program, which is a 12-month coaching program. I have about 75 students as of today,
Hmm.
and we meet every Tuesday. But what I found to be really interesting is people are like, yeah, that's interesting. But what I really want to hear about is I really want to hear about your travels. And so I started a company called Invested Adventures, and we take
Hmm.
real estate investors on epic adventures around the world. So now I get to plan incredible basically business meetings in a destination like the African safari that I just held in June. And I think that's where some of my funniest stories come from. One of the real estate investors and we needed to use the facilities. Well, Richard, when you're in the Serengeti, there are no facilities, so you get for lack of better terms, you get a pop a squat behind the safari vehicle and just yell at everyone, "Don't come back here!" And while doing so, you hear the safari guide, "Hurry, hurry, hurry." And you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, there's going to be a lion or an elephant coming." But the reality is that there was another safari vehicle kind of, darting toward us. And so let's just say that they got a very nice view on their safari.
Never mind. I'm not going to go there. But I can imagine, had it been a lion, just imagine you're in the middle and all of a sudden you lock eyes with a lion 100 feet away. That would not be a good feeling.
And you know what's really wild? I'm sure that a lot of your listeners have been on safari, but I'm sure a lot haven't. Mm-hmm. And I thought going on safari would just be what I called binocular city. I thought you'd spot animals, but you'd have to use your binoculars the whole time. But the reality is, Bill, there would be a lion like within 12 feet of the safari vehicle. Wow. Obviously not when you're outside going to the bathroom. You're inside, right, safe in the vehicle. But yeah, it was incredible how many animals we saw and how close they were. It was definitely one of those moments where I looked around and I'm sitting in the car with all real estate investors. Some of them own small portfolios of 2 million and some of them own portfolios of closer to 15 million. And we're spending the day talking about, financing and strategies and tax strategies. And I'm just pinching myself that this is my job now.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I imagine the animals are used to these vehicles going through, so that doesn't even phase them anymore,
Well, and that's the thing is that the guides do such a good job of paying attention to the animal behaviors that you're not disturbing them. And we had a really incredible chance to see a lion had killed a buffalo like within hours and called out to the female lioness, and 3 mama lions walked down this dirt path with about 15 baby cubs to the carcass and started eating. And you have to think they don't really care about us. Like dinner's there and dinner might not be there for another 3 to 5 days. And so they're focused on one thing. And as long as you're acting in an appropriate way, which your guides make sure that you do, you get to see something that you never dreamed of seeing.
Wow. Very cool.
It's very cool. And it's all a tax write-off because it's all a business trip.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Right. Well, excellent. Well, Sarah, where are you today in your journey? You mentioned like the 19 rental units you have, the other 2 businesses you've started. Kind of where are you now? Where are you looking to go? Your goals?
Yeah. I ask myself this all the time, Bill. Of course, I want more cash flow, but at what point, like when is more better is what you ask yourself. And so I'm focusing on this medium-term rental strategy. I actually wrote a book about this investing strategy published by Bigger Pockets, 30-Day Stay. A real estate investor's guide to mastering the medium-term rental. And I love this strategy because it works even when we're looking at 7% interest rates, which we are. That's our reality. And so I'm looking to replicate a strategy that's already working for me. So the last 2 properties that I've picked up have been side-by-side duplexes. And I will rent one side as a long-term rental and one side as a medium-term rental. So I get the stability of the long-term rental if I want it or need it or I don't know the market. And then I get the increased cash flow from the medium-term rental. And don't get me wrong, I definitely looked at, should I go even bigger and get 150 units and syndications and capital raising? And what does all that look like as you grow as an investor and maybe even become what I consider more sophisticated? And at the end of the day, my returns are so good on these kind of boring buildings and what I consider boring markets. And that's what I can continue to look at is I'm going to probably buy more duplexes, more fourplexes in these markets that I already have established on the ground teams. And then I want to focus on my lifestyle. When
Mhm.
I get invited to go on an Antarctica cruise, I want to be able to say yes and bring other real estate investors with me.
Mhm.
When real estate investors tell me that they want to go to the south of Italy, I want to have the space and capacity to put together a trip and coordinate a trip to Italy. And so a lot of my time and energy is focused on building out my other businesses, what I consider my active businesses, but while keeping an eye on what's fun and what's exciting for
Mhm.
my personal life as well.
Mhm. Very nice. Very nice.
I did pick up a copy of your book maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, about halfway through the 30-day stay. It's an excellent book. I
Oh, thanks, Bill. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so
really enjoying the stories in that.
you've probably heard some of my travel stories in there.
It's right. Oh, they're great.
Well, good deal. So,
Thank you.
Sarah, you mentioned you've got the coaching program where you're, people are part of the program. So, but at the same point in time, you're giving them advice, you're giving them, helping them to move in their direction. You also talked about, just these adventures that you're creating. People are obviously paying to go, but at the same point in time, they're having a great adventure while they're, meeting and learning and talking. From a personal standpoint, or maybe one of your businesses, is there anything you do from a charitable standpoint that you do to give back to help others in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we go to Guatemala, which is a location that is really near and dear to my heart, I'm hiring everything local. So Amanda is this, woman in her 50s that's making breakfast and then we're hiring her uncle to be our driver to make sure that we're doing that. When we go to a coffee finca, we're not going to the coffee finca that's owned by a Dutch couple, we're going to the coffee finca that's owned by the local people. And
Mhm.
so it's really important for me to even hire, an on the ground assistant when I'm in these locations. And so I'm really focusing on local companies that can not only provide a local experience for my clients, but it gives us an opportunity to fuel the economy of where we're going.
Nice, very nice. It's a great approach. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, Chair, what is something you've recently implemented in your business that allows you to grow and scale?
Hire, 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 and then hire some more. I think that hiring talented people was my golden ticket to getting my life back because this time last year I was working 60 hours a week. And I'm glad that I did. It's kind of like real estate investing. That very first property, I was the one, doing plumbing and even framing and carrying in drywall and doing these types of things. Whereas now I hire that stuff out. And it's the same thing with my active businesses. I was the one, creating email campaigns and adding people to the database 12 months ago, but I'm not doing that anymore. I now have staff that's helping me create marketing collateral. I even have someone that's doing my marketing strategy for me. And I'm now able to focus on my highest and best use, which is getting out there and talking to people.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice. Sarah, what advice would you give somebody who's considering making that path change?
Bet on yourself. I know that it can be really scary, especially if you haven't replaced your income yet. But what I love to see is I love to see people who've replaced maybe 20 to 40% of their income and then bet on themselves because then you get 40 hours a week back, but you get so much more than that. You get what I consider mind space. So you now have all of this space in your mind to think about how can I create other income? And I find that my students, the investors who want to quit their job, they're the most successful when they really bet on themselves.
Nice. Very good.
Chair, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out and learn more about what you have going on in your coaching program?
Yeah, there's two places. You can first go to my website, which is sarahdweaver.com, or they can reach out to me on Instagram. And I really do love hearing from you guys. So if you're a listener and anything I've said has resonated with you, please reach out to me. My Instagram is also Sarah D. Weaver.
Excellent. And we'll add those in the show notes below. Well, Sarah, we really want to thank you again for being on the Road Less Traveled show. Really enjoyed the conversation and wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, definitely really appreciate you being on today. We also want to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content like our show today with Sarah D. Weaver. And thanks again, Sarah, for being on. We want to remind everybody of a couple important things that Park Capital Partners has going on. First of all, we have the Park Capital Partners Value Add Fund, which is a 506c fund open today to accredited investors. Second, we have the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is a 501(c) nonprofit that Bill and I created as another way that we give back. The way that works quickly is first, the Park Capital Partners funds the operations of the foundation. So all the money donated goes to do its best work, which is to help others. Second, we donate personally. Third, corporately, we donate. And finally, when investors invest with us in one of our projects, we make a donation to honor that investor to a pre-selected list of 15 different charities that investor can choose from, and not only make returns, but at the same point in time, feel good about it by helping somebody else in some way. So please reach out to Bill and myself. We're happy to have a conversation anytime. ParkCapitalPartnersLLC.com, ParkCapitalPartnersLLC.com. And again, thanks, Sarah, for being on. Remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.